Will you all pray with me one more time? God of grace, we come before you having read from your word, having offered our prayers, and having sung your praises. Now, O God, as we seek to interpret your word, be with us, guide us, help us, and protect us, that the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts together might be acceptable in your sight. For you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So, as Karen said, Peter is saying to the people of the early church, serve one another. Serve one another with gladness, with joy. I'm paraphrasing now. Serve one another with the abilities God has given you. And the astute Christian, which I know you all are, should be asking, yeah, great. Why? What's in it for me? Right? Because that's what Christianity comes down to, right? Wrong. Wrong. I have been wrestling a lot lately with the concept of what's in it for me, Christianity. If we pause and are willing to be honest with ourselves and each other, most people come to faith initially because of what's in it for them. Right? Yeah. It's real simple. We talk about the message of, it's an S word. Salvation. Thank you. Whew. I was getting a little worried there for a minute. Salvation. We talk about the nature of God's gift of grace, of forgiveness, of welcome that promises us and blesses us with eternal life. You know, when you stop and unpack that core concept, quite bluntly, it's a pretty darn selfish concept, isn't it? But that's okay, because we humans were created to be pretty darn selfish creatures. I don't know if you've noticed this, maybe not about yourself, but maybe some others. We sometimes, as human creatures, do spend time asking, what's in it for me? I spend a lot of time getting frustrated with humans, especially when it comes to traffic. I don't think I'm alone. And especially since it's not winter, which means it's construction season. And that means there are constant lane closures, right? And so what do we humans do when there's a sign 2 miles in advance that says, lane closed ahead, 2 miles? We zip up that other lane as far as we can get and try to pull our way in. And what's even more fun is watching the guy that thinks he's being very patient, very gracious, might be me, that sat in line early and gets angrier and angrier and gets closer and closer to that car in front of me because, doggone it, you're not getting in front of me when I waited in line properly. Unless what? Unless you got your signal on. It helps if you have your signal on. I will buy that. But, and you're a lot, you know, it's funny, if it's 2 miles, my graciousness declines with the distance through the verge. Right? I'm pretty gracious at 1.5 miles. Yeah, come on in. It took you a second, but that's cool. About 1 mile in on that 2 mile warning, I'm getting a little less nice. By about a half mile left, I'm scrunching over. Yeah. I don't actually scrunch over, I'll get shot. but I'm tempted to. I want to. I celebrate the truck driver that does at that point, right? I'm like, yeah! You're my friend, I'll let you back in. And Darwin and other scientists would tell us that is the nature of being a created being, of being an animal, if you want to take the scientific terminology, right? That's what we do. We protect our interests. And don't even get me started on mama bear instinct, right? Because none of you have exhibited mama bear instinct ever, right? Never. Oh, no, I'm so kind and gracious to everyone. I don't protect my children. I am in church now. I see how it is. Maybe I'm lying for you. This is a better way to say that. But Peter, in this letter, calls us, sounded like I was breaking out, I wanted to make sure, calls us to serve, to lovingly give of ourselves to others with the gifts that God has given us. And again, I find myself, as I wrestle with human nature and Christianity and what's in it for me, why? And the only answer I can come up with, the only one that makes sense to me, that reconciles the whole thing, is doggone it, when somebody stretches out their hands and dies for you, you listen to what he says. Newsflash, Jesus also had a little bit to say about serving others, didn't he?
Yeah.
Jesus, who fed people when they were hungry miraculously in ways I don't know that I can, but God could. Jesus, who washed the feet of not only his followers, but especially the follower that would, in a matter of hours, betray him. We forget about that part of the story. Jesus, who healed people who weren't even worthy to be encountered or touched in the religious traditions, said in very succinct terms, do as I have commanded you. And what I have commanded you is to love one another. Those people in the right lane that I'm having trouble loving, that I have confessed before you, they might be here Saturday. They might. And I take pictures, so I'll know. I don't take pictures. That was a joke. But it would be a funny concept. And if they're here, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to what? I'm going to give them a backpack and a cup of water and some food. And I'm going to encourage them to play with the children. Not just let the children play with them. And I'm going to encourage them for a few hours to not worry about the expense of back to school time and have a good time with their family. Because I think that's what Jesus would do during his lifetime. It meshes with his teachings. And I don't know if you noticed this. Maybe as you drove in, there's a sign out there. It says First Christian Church. And you know what that word means? Christian? Alexa's on a roll. Do you know what Christian means? It's okay, I'm just playing with it. I knew you were in that zone. I could see it. I see it every day at my house. I know exactly what that zone means. Christian means I follow Christ. I strive to follow. Sorry, Gail. I strive to follow. See, you all don't see everything I see. I walked over here too far, and Gail goes and looks at the monitor of the camera, and I'm like, oh, I got to put some tape down so I know how far I can go. That'll be when I'm in the circle. It stops me. We're followers of Christ, the one who served even the one that would lead to his death. We'll reenact that in just a little while. Because we need to remember when we come to this table that Jesus said, take and eat, all of you, even that one. And then to do this in remembrance of me. Well, do what? Do we just worship Jesus by taking communion and remembering it? No. Everything we do should be a remembrance of what Jesus would have us do. You've heard me talk before about those little bracelets from the 1980s and 90s. You know, the ones that said WWJD, that I had meet with mixed emotions. Because what Jesus would do is die on a cross, and I'm not going to do what Jesus did. Sorry, I'll just admit it. Not in my motivational set. I know, disappointing, right? But if those same bracelets said WWJHMD, then I would be on board. What would Jesus have me do? Jesus would have you serve. Well, it's your serve. I hope you all make it here on Saturday with joy and gladness on your face and your hearts and your minds and a willingness, even if there's a right lane line jumper, to serve in the name of God and glorify God. May God bless this time of service and make it so. Amen.
Amen.